Hi everyone, welcome to another masterclass on Mindvalley. Now, first, let me acknowledge something. Usually, when we do these masterclasses, I'm in an exotic location, in an incredible studio with one of the greatest minds I've ever met. And we put on a really incredible high quality production, but not right now. You see, I'm supposed to be in the United States, but at the specific time in which we're filming this class, the world has gone through a bit of a disarray. Flights have been shut down between Europe and the US. It's July 1st right now, and me and our guest today, Keith Farazi, could not be in the same location. So we're doing this over Zoom. Hi, Keith.
Hey, Vishen. Good to see you. I wish I could hug you, but that's at some point in the future.
So Keith and I are directly communicating with each other on Zoom right now. You can kind of see what the setup looks like from my window. But at the same time, we're going to be communicating with you through our respective camera crews. I want to acknowledge something. This is not our usual situation. The world has transformed in not so nice ways. And one of the things we have to do is learn to adapt. In fact, I was talking to Keith this weekend as we were planning out the content for this class, and I said, Keith, what's the biggest lesson you want to get out of people? And he said, it's really about this. We have to learn radical adaptability. The world has changed, so has leadership, and all of us need to learn to keep up. So right now, the world is more uncertain than ever. And in the words of Keith Farazi, leaders have to be able to look around a corner while still building a business. The world, he said, has been changing for, in fact, 20 years. But leadership hasn't evolved with that changing world. But right now, with what we're going through, with quarantine, with uncertainty in the world, with a looming recession, we are forced to adapt and change. And that brings us to today's class. So it was March 17 when I received the news from the government that I had to shut down my office and that the country I was in was going to go into quarantine. And immediately, this put me in a really uncertain mood. You see, I'm the leader of a 250-person organization. As CEO, I'm accountable to our customers. I'm accountable to people like you who are watching this masterclass, our viewers. I'm accountable to my team. And all of a sudden, with all of the changes that happened so rapidly, I got really faced with anxiety, with fear even. I wasn't sure if the company was going to survive. I wasn't sure how I was going to lead my team. And so in the midst of that chaos, I brought in this man, Keith Farazi, to help advise us. All of a sudden, we were a 250-person team scattered across the world with no singular office to come into. Now, Keith brought together the leaders of our organization via Zoom. And that's when he taught us new ways of collaborating. He taught me new ways of leadership. Some of these nuggets of wisdom you're going to learn today. Some you might learn if you go deeper in Keith's work. But these include concepts such as the CPS, collaborative problem solving. One of my favorite concepts, the Yoda in the room. That concept changed the way we communicated as a team. The third one is something that I'm doing right now. It's called the drop-in technique. You see, the change and the pace of change has been relentless. When quarantine lifted 3 months later, it lifted for companies. We could go back to the office, but not everybody could go back to the office because schools were still closed. In the city I'm in, the schools are closed until 2021. And so with no place to enroll my kids, I decided I needed to relocate from Asia, which is where I was, to Europe. I'm recording this right now in Tallinn, Estonia. And I'm here for my children. As a CEO, just as quarantine ended, another wrench was tossed in my way of life. I now, for the sake of my children, and I'm sure any of you would make the same choice, I relocated to Europe so they could enroll in a school here. The environment is a lot safer, but now I'm separated again from 250 members of my team who are in a different part of the world. In short, what I thought was a great way of leadership no longer applied in this completely different world. And Keith has been helping me upgrade my skills, refresh my knowledge. And thanks to the ideas he has helped bring in, I'm happy to say that Mindvalley, over the last 3 months, amidst all the certainty, not only survived, But get this, the last 3 months were the 3 months in which we had our best performance as a company in history. It was the 3 months in which all the leaders and the managers in the team really showed up and delivered incredible results. It was the 3 months that, if I think back over the last 10 years, were probably our three best performing months. And I have to say that a good chunk of that credit goes to the ideas from this man, and you're going to learn the same in this class. Now, it isn't just Mindvalley. Keith has made a difference to multiple companies. I was having lunch with him in New York many months ago before quarantine, and he shared with me a message on his phone. It was from the CEO of General Motors, and it was about how Keith's ideas had helped General Motors go through a massive cultural shift. By practicing one of his techniques, a technique called core elevation, they unleashed the full power of their team. They brought in candor, collaboration, and it allowed them to succeed like never before. They credited this as one of the primary reasons why they did not go back into bankruptcy after they came out of bankruptcy in 2008. Then there's Dun & Bradstreet, which was suffering a decline for 5 years. The CEO brought in Keith's principles to turn the company around, and the share price went up 20%. Then there was Parsons, the aerospace company. They've been around for like 100 years, and they wanted to go public, but they were told they didn't have the metrics to go public. Within 1 year of bringing in Keith, they went public at 24 points higher than what the analysts had anticipated. So again, I don't know how you got here, but I want you to consider for a moment that you being here in this masterclass could completely transform not only your life, but the lives of everyone you lead. And perhaps you're not even at that stage yet. Perhaps you're a leader with no title. What you're going to learn here is how to show up in a different way, because you do not need a title to lead. What you need are some of the tools that Keith is about to expose to you. This is why I'm so thrilled that you're on this masterclass today, because this is going to make an incredible shift. Keith has been trusted by everyone from Deepak Chopra to Tony Robbins to Warren Buffett. Keith's wisdom has been shared with so many amazing minds in the world today, and he has truly helped make an impact to some of the world's top leaders. I want to read out to you some incredible statements about Keith. Xenia Tata, who is the Chief Impact Officer at XPRIZE, which I have labeled probably the most effective nonprofit in the world. Xenia said, "What I loved about Keith is that he imparts so much universal wisdom in a single, straightforward, and practical manner." Now, by the way, I was so surprised when I saw this testimonial because XPRIZE is the biggest NGO that Mindvalley supports. We've donated close to $600,000 to XPRIZE. So to see that one of their leaders has credited Keith made me so happy and was one of the reasons I wanted to bring Keith onto Mindvalley. And in fact, the founder of XPRIZE, Peter Diamandis, who was voted by Forbes magazine as one of the top 40 greatest leaders in the world, said Keith is a master of breaking down walls. Now, this story is from Jonathan Mildenhall, Chief Marketing Officer of a company you may have heard of called Airbnb. He said Keith Ferrazzi has been facilitating events that have led his guests to walk away feeling a little more connected, both with themselves and their industry peer groups. And Devin Wenig, President and CEO of eBay, has credited Keith with helping his people execute on any strategy at hand. So you've heard it from these remarkable leaders of industry. And I know that this man's advice is going to make a profound impact on your life too. Keith has worked with the World Bank, Delta Airlines, Sony, Microsoft, Unilever, Procter & Gamble, Verizon, and many, many, many other companies. Now, before I bring in this remarkable mind, I do want to ensure that you understand just how valuable this content is. Keith is generous with his time. Keith is the kind of guy who spends his time consulting and advising the world's top leaders. And he's giving us this opportunity because he wants to make a difference to our Mindvalley community, because he's seen the impact that Mindvalley has had on the world. In exchange, I want to ask that you invest your time in this. Turn off your Instagram. Don't get distracted by Facebook. Have your journal open, have a pen ready, and take notes. Keith is going to give you his best. I'm going to give you my best. and I want you to commit to giving us your best. So do this right now. Put your hand on your heart and just mentally say, you commit to going deep with us, to really enhancing your leadership so that you can make a difference in the world. Close your eyes and just make that mental commitment. Now, that was the first step in making a commitment. Now, I want you to make a second commitment. This second commitment might be a little bit harder, but if you do this, you are immediately going to start seeing a difference in your leadership style. Keith taught me this, and I want you to do this right now with me, okay? Here's what we're going to do. Keith says, I want you to send a message to someone in your team, someone whom you lead. Now, maybe you're not currently leading a team. This could be someone you work with. You're going to tell them and ask them the following. I'm currently taking a class on leadership, and as part of this class, I have to ask a member of my team the following question. Can you name one specific thing I can change to be a better leader for the team? Go ahead, open up your phone. This is the one time you can use your phone, and I want you to send a message to someone in your team. Again, you don't have to type out the entire message as I said it, but ask someone for feedback. I'm going to pause for a minute and give you a chance to type this out. You can leave a voicemail if you want. Here's the statement. I'm currently taking a class on leadership, and as part of this class, I have to ask a member of my team the following question. Can you name one specific thing I can change to be a better leader for the team? Congratulations, you already took one step to becoming a better leader. Keith's going to explain in a moment why that exercise was important. Now, we're going to do to the second phase of critical reflection. So one of the principles that we teach in Mindvalley is that if you're looking to transform, critical reflection is a truly important habit. It simply means being aware of where you are right now versus where you want to grow. So I'm going to ask you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 in these 8 sections of leadership. The first is your leadership ability. I want you to rate yourself, 1 being lowest, 5 being highest, on your leadership ability. Whatever you think leadership means, how would you rate yourself? 1 means really at the bottom, 5 means excellent. Go ahead. Number 2, rate yourself on growing your business and your career. A good business should be growing by, say, 20% year on year. Now, I know in the time of uncertainty that may be lower a bit, but how would you rate the growth of your business? How would you rate the growth of your career? I've always said that one's career, as measured by, say, the income you receive, should be growing by around 10% year on year to be considered really good. Is your income growing by 10% year on year? Give yourself a 4. If it's more than 10, give yourself a 5. If you haven't seen your income grow by 10%, you would be a 3 or lower. Likewise, for your business, 20% is considered a really good growth rate for your business. Okay, number 3, achieving goals. How easy is it for you to hit the goals you set for yourself at the start of the year? Number 4, radical adaptability. This means how comfortable are you with change, with chaos happening in the world, with having to shift entire aspects of your work and life. This is actually one of the key components of leadership, according to Keith. Number 5, self-awareness. This is in fact what we're practicing right now, being aware of our shortcomings, of how we can grow, of our vision for our future. Rate yourself from 1 to 5 in terms of your self-awareness. Number 6, how good are you at improving your team's performance? That means I could give you any team and you could dramatically transform that team's performance. Again, 1 to 5. Number 7, how good are you at developing an emotional connection with others? 5 means you can sit down with anyone and instantly connect. And 8, inner peace. Great leaders have a peaceful serenity towards them. They don't let stress or chaos shake them up, because that serenity, that peacefulness is important. It adds stability to their team. It doesn't mean you never get scared. It doesn't mean you don't worry, but you understand how to deal with these emotions in a healthy way. Inner peace is what they call it. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. Amazing. Now I want you to hold on to these ratings, because at the end of this class, you're going to reflect on how much you've grown. And now let's bring on our man of the hour, Keith Ferrazzi. Keith, welcome to Mindvalley.
Vishen, it's great to be here. Thank you very much.
So, Keith, first thing I want to ask you is, how did you get so obsessed with the art of leadership?
Thanks for asking about that, Vishen. I have to go back to the 1970s to really hammer home the impact that a point in time made in my life. My family was an immigrant family from Italy, and the promise of coming to the United States was for a better life, right? Not only for themselves, but for their children. And the steel industry in the 1970s was collapsing down around us. The ability for American steel to compete on a global basis was just shattered. The competitive products were better quality and lower price. And my father would come home from work, and we all knew this. This was in the news. There were people being laid off all over the place. And my dad would talk about the fact that he saw some solutions, some ways to make the product better, some ways to make the workforce more effective. He'd speak about it in the terms of a steel worker down at the front line, but he would know that there were things that could have been done to actually make our product and that industry better. But the problem was that the managers and the leaders in that business didn't care. They didn't even imagine that the frontline workers had an input to improvement in the way the work actually occurred. My dad would sometimes be even told that he needed to slow down working, because if he worked better than other workers, it would make the manager look bad. So a few months after that, unfortunately, my father was one of the individuals laid off. And I saw my father struggle, like so many other men, to put food on the table for their families. My mother had to become a cleaning lady. I had to go to work. And I was 8 and 9 years old. I had to actually do my part to make money for the family. Nobody should be in that position. And I swore at that point that I would do whatever I needed to do. I didn't know what the path was when I was a kid, that I was going to grow up and consult organizations to transformation of teams. I, at that point in time, recognized that I was going to do something to make sure families didn't have to suffer like that unnecessarily. I blamed the leadership, and I think rightfully so, and I was going to do something about that.
That is such a beautiful story. I love that. Now let me ask you about this. That picture you sent me, all of those leadership books on the table. What was it like digesting that many books on leadership to create this program?
Well, you'll laugh, Vishen. That was literally just a few books I dusted off as I was getting ready over a 2-week reading period to start writing this particular course. Those books can go 10x, 20x. If you look at my lifetime pursuit, I mean, when I was at Yale University, I cut out of undergraduate, snuck into the business school just so that I can take business school classes, even though I wasn't getting credit for them. And of course, when I was at Harvard Business School, I got to know the smartest professors in the world associated with leadership. This has been a lifelong pursuit of mine. What I showed you a picture of was just scratching the surface over a 2-week period.
That's amazing. And I can't wait. I cannot wait to hear your wisdom, because every time I have a conversation with you, Keith, every single time I learn practical tools I can bring back to my team. And for those of you who are watching, you are going to learn some practical tools. Now, Keith, What are some of the things that we're going to be talking about today?
Vishen, a lot of people ask the question, what's the difference between a leader and a manager? We're going to be talking about that, and we're going to be giving some very unique insights associated with it. We're going to be learning how to win in the face of extraordinary external pressures that people have been facing for some time now, but I have to say, right now, it's absolutely critical, but we're going to learn how in those pressures to get extraordinary business results. We're going to talk about how to help your team step up, right, and meet you in leadership to achieve those extraordinary results. And we're going to talk about how to make people outside of your team part of your team, people that you would have never been able to get into your team, but will be partners with your team to achieve those extraordinary results. I call that teaming out. And what's most important is with all of the fatigue and frustration that's going on today, I want to make sure that everybody watching today will be able to be a leader while maintaining all of the joy and energy they deserve.
I love that. I love that. Being a leader while maintaining all your joy and energy. Okay, now back to those of you listening. I want you to write this down. One of the best ways, by the way, to learn something new is to know your premise, your why, to know why is this learning important to you. So I want you to write down now, why is it that becoming a better leader is important to you? I'm going to give you a minute. Countdown starts now. Could you be wanting to become a better leader because you want to get your team or your company to the next level? Is it because you want to grow your business? Could it be perhaps you have some unmet potential you want to unleash onto the world? Is it so you can make a bigger contribution? Whatever it is to you, it is your reason for being here. And what we're going to do is do our best to get you there. You have a few seconds left. Continue writing down your big why. Thank you for writing that down. Now, first thing we want to do with Keith is to address the three biggest false beliefs about leadership. These beliefs are insidious, but they hold so many people back, perhaps you even, from attaining your full potential as a leader. Keith?
You know, Vishen, a lot of people think that leaders are innate, that they're born, right? The reality is that nobody is born with the kind of exceptional leadership that truly allows you to break through. The kind of exceptional leadership that truly allows you to break through, that is made, that is developed, that is hard work. I have been a student of leadership all my life, since sitting at my father's table, and I have to constantly practice being a great leader. I have to constantly seek new wisdom, new courses, new teachers. Leadership is an art form. That's like saying that Picasso stopped learning how to be an artist. That's ridiculous. And a second area is that leadership even requires a title. I wrote an entire book on this, Vishen. The reality is that leadership happens with a person with a vision who can enlist other people to follow that vision. And I don't care if somebody reports to you, or I don't care if somebody doesn't report to you. Your leadership is something that you earn first and foremost by virtue of having a strong passion and a strong vision for growth and something that you want to achieve, and then you enlist people to follow. And that's really the art form of leadership, is enlistment, not just having checked a box and have a title or a position. And the third area is that the way I lead is sufficient. I can't even imagine that philosophy, because there is so much abundance and so much growth and so much potential for exponentialism. What I mean by that is, what I want, Vishen, for our community is that they don't just go 10%. I appreciate the desire to go 10%. I want people to go 10x. And the willingness and the ability to go 10x requires a different form of leadership. The way we lead today, you know, if you keep doing what you've done, you're going to get what you got. I want us to get 10x. I want us to get extraordinary. And that requires a new way of leading.
I love that you said that, Keith. That what you said so resonates with me. As a CEO, there are so many people in my team, and I observe that the people who are growing the fastest, who are getting the biggest promotions, they really are aware of these things. I've had young people I've hired with no title, and they ended up becoming senior managers because they didn't act like they had no title. They did exactly what you're talking about. So I cannot wait to see the impact this is going to have on people. And perhaps those of you watching, perhaps you fit one of these beliefs, perhaps, and the most common one, by the way, is probably the person who's watching who may not be leading a team yet. Maybe you're a freelancer at home trying to get your business off. Maybe you just joined a company. Maybe you're even out of work. But I can promise you, these principles still apply. And these principles are going to really give you an incredible edge in life. So, if you could learn the ideas here, I want you to now imagine, what would your life look like 3 years from now? Play that game with me and write this down. Imagine what your life will look like 3 years from now. Bill Gates once said famously, most of us overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we underestimate what we can do in 3. So I want you to imagine your life 3 years ahead and imagine it beyond. Push a little. What will your life look like if you were truly a remarkable leader? If we could get you there, what would your title be? What would you be doing? How would you be leading? What would your lifestyle be like? Who would you have breakfast and lunch with? What type of conversations would you be having as part of your work? This exercise is going to make a real difference in your life, because when you visualize 3 years ahead, you're giving your mind a target. Write down whatever comes to you. Thank you. You can put your pen down now. Keep that piece of paper, because this is going to become really important to helping you shape your future. So Keith, give us a quick idea of what we're going to be talking about today.
Vishen, leadership is about a contract. It's a contract between the leader and the individuals on a team. What's interesting about that is that it's a contract that I think is loosely formed today. It's a contract that I don't believe has much integrity around it. We walk into organizations today and we'll see a poster on the wall with a bunch of attributes that have been conceived of at some offsite. And then those attributes aren't even adhered to. We're talking about, an attribute that says we speak boldly and confidently, etc. We have transparency. And then you ask people if they can speak up in a meeting, and the answer is no, they can't speak up in a meeting. Or worse, they talk behind each other's backs. We have to contract and land a set of agreements that yield high-performing team. And that's the role of a leader. Today we're going to be talking about is the very first stage, what I call recontracting. The very first stage of a leader moving to agreement with a group of individuals on how we will be, how the leader's relationship is to the team, how the team's relationship is to each other. That's critical to achieving extraordinary outcomes. I call it recontracting. Vishen, one of the things that I'm feeling is of concern to a lot of leaders is just the overwhelm. Everything is changing so much. Markets are down. People are having challenges. And as a result, they feel overwhelmed. And the burden is extraordinary. But it doesn't need to be. It's extraordinary because leaders have chosen to take the burden on themselves. What I believe is there is a possibility that leaders can move from being overload into a position of shared load, where the team itself steps up to share the leadership responsibility. But that's not something that a team naturally does. That's something that a leader facilitates. There's nothing more frustrating to me than a leader that says, my team isn't stepping up. Well, darn it, you're not helping your team get the most out of themselves. You're not helping your team step up into a position of co-leadership with you. And that is the role of a leader. And that is a very new role of a leader. It used to be that leadership was authoritative. It used to be that a leadership came from the top down. And the reality is that leadership is a humble facilitation of extraordinary people creating an ecosystem that gets extraordinary results. And I say an ecosystem because it doesn't even include only the people that work for you. Great leaders lead movements of people. Great leaders lead networks of people to achieve extraordinary things. And whether you're leading 2 people or 200 people, your ability to get that group of individual to achieve extraordinary, that's the kind of leadership that I teach.
Wow. I love that definition. Could you repeat that again? Great. It was something about ecosystems, but it was so beautifully said.
I make shit up all the time. Great leaders don't just lead the people that work for them. Great leaders lead an ecosystem. They lead a network of individuals critical to achieving extraordinary. That's what great leadership is.
So Keith, why is recontracting so important?
Vishen, we are operating today, all of us with our teams as leaders, we are operating with a contract of how we work together, a contract of accountability, a contract of collaboration. And there are certain norms in which we're operating. Some of them are actually debilitative. Some of them are erosive of value, and others create value. And we do these things very subconsciously. We do these things without real attention. We have been studying for 20 years the behaviors of high-performing teams and leaders. And what we need you to do is we need you to begin a conversation and then move that conversation into distinct action and new habits and new rituals as a leader in order to first recontract, make aware of old bad behaviors and make aware of the new behaviors we need to embrace. Then we need to move to practices and habits which solidify these and assure that we're going to get the value out of them. So recontracting is just the tip of the spear, Vishen, but you've got to start somewhere. You've got to start with the awareness of what kind of a team, what kind of a leader are we today? We start with recontracting as the tip of the spear, and then we start sharing all of the practices that bring that new contract to life and lands it in actual exponential better outcomes. Vishen, I'll tell you why recontracting is so important relative to all the things that a leader needs to do, like set a vision or put a plan together. Because the contract that you have with your team is actually the operating system of how it all works. You can set a vision, but if the contract is that people don't speak up, then you're going to set a vision that isn't bold. It doesn't have risk associated with it, right? You can put a plan together, but if accountability is not negotiated to be clear that not only you are going to hold people accountable, but your team is holding each other accountable, then people won't achieve the plan. So the social contract between a team, the agreements between a team need to be recontracted in this new era, for this new world, for anything as a leader to happen successfully. It's the operating system.
I love that. I love that. I've never really been introduced to this concept of leadership. I've heard so many different definitions of leadership, and I know that it's a remarkably complex art, but I think it's beautiful that you're focusing on this, because I think this is something that we so miss in the world.
Vishen, I've done the hard work for you. Vishen, for 20 years, we have been studying the critical elements of being a high-performing team, the critical elements of you as a leader facilitating an extraordinary team that it gets extraordinary results. The beginning of this is a recontracting. You need to be able to recontract and renegotiate the old behaviors to the new behaviors of that team, whether it's a new team or an old team. It starts with a recontracting. In order to achieve those 8 behaviors, there's 6 distinct steps in the recontracting. And that's what we're going to go through today. The 6 steps of a recontracting.
Got it. So let me make sure I understand. There are 8 behaviors you want to bring into your team. And to instill these 8 behaviors in this team, you're going to follow a process called recontracting. And this is a 6-step process.
Vishen, that is accurate. But as you know, that's the beginning of the journey. In the program itself, we're going to go through actually how to land all of those 8 behaviors in much more detail. But we're starting with where you need to start, which is the awakening and awareness of what those 8 behaviors are between you and your team, and an agreement that that's the direction we're heading.
So Keith, let's begin with step 1.
Absolutely. You know, it sounds kind of simple, but scheduling, it's so important that we don't just squeeze this very important conversation into a pre-existing meeting or disrespect how critical this recontracting is. I want to make sure that you are very considerate of the time and the space you're having this conversation. I also want to make sure that people are in a relaxed state where they feel comfortable, where they're not too fatigued. Pick a day that's appropriate. Be respectful of your people's time and their workload. Scheduling is very important to find a good chunk of time. Let's say that this is about an hour-and-a-half conversation, a good chunk of time when people are ready for the dialogue.
Okay, so the first step, if I understand this correctly, is to block off a 90-minute chunk of time on your calendar that you can sit with your team and go through this process with them.
Absolutely correct.
Great. Let's go on to step 2.
The second piece is to make sure that you're creating the right space and the right mindset for this kind of a conversation. Now, tone is so important. I do not want people to come to this braced for being told that they're not doing well. I want this to be hope, possibility, excitement. Imagine what it would be like if we were truly a dream team. Imagine what it would be like if we could move to a place where we look back on our lives and this team of individuals not only achieved extraordinary outcomes, but did so with joy, did so with an energy that we've never had in the workplace before. We want to set a tone of possibility. Also, make sure that you're using language that isn't I, it's we. You're now stepping off of the pedestal of traditional authoritative, control-oriented leadership into a position where you're a member of the team as well as a leader of the team. And we're focused on what we're going to do because we're about to invite the team into leadership with us. It's a very powerful shift. And the tone and creating the space is critical.
Oh God, as you're saying that, I'm beginning to reflect on moments when I made this mistake, right? I created the schedule to bring people together, but my tone was maybe where I was focused on the negative. And I'm realizing now the importance of language, the importance of the tone, the importance of focusing on the we. So can I ask for your advice? So let's say I'm now creating that space. So obviously I found a 90-minute slot in my calendar. What would be sort of like the email or the messaging that I would send my team to bring them together? How would I explain what I'm about to do?
Yeah, a letter would be informal, would be light in tone. Something like, I've really been thinking about who we are as a team. And I recognize that there's a lot of opportunity for us to bond together and really begin to collaborate more effectively to not only achieve even better outcomes, but be able to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, is this the kind of team with the kind of behaviors that we look forward to coming to work with, that we look forward to being a part of, where we're going to look back on our lives and truly make this a moment in life where we were a part of a dream team. And you can even say something lightly and say, listen, I don't know how you feel relative to what kind of a gap we have between where we are today and being truly a part of a dream team, but it's okay. I want us all to be able to talk about how to make our team better. That kind of thing.
I love that. So I want to ask this question because this is confusing me right now. I can see how that messaging might work for certain teams, but I know I run a lot of engineering teams, and the people on my engineering team, they want data, they want science, they want to know, okay, what are we doing? Is this a scientifically validated process? What are we going to be covering? What is your source for this methodology you're taking us through? So how would I explain that? And I'm sure other people watching, I'm sure maybe you run teams and they want to know, what is this conversation we're going to have? Because they don't want fluff. How would I explain that?
Thank you, Vishen. Let me put my my industrial engineer hat on for a moment. Hey team, I just watched this awesome class, and it was taught by somebody who has had one of the most statistical analysis of what leadership looks like today. In the last 20 years, the study has identified 8 critical areas of high-performing teams and extraordinary leaders. And I was excited to talk to you about these because I'd love us to take a look at where we stand against these 8 attributes and see if there's opportunities for us to improve as a team.
Awesome. Now we go to step 3. But first, a quick recap. So step 1 is schedule. Step 2 is create the space. This is the messaging that you're going to use to bring people into the scheduled 90-minute block. Now we come to assess and acknowledge. And this is where you're going to teach us those 8 dimensions.
So Vishen, now we're actually moving into the meat, the actual meeting that we have. So we've showed up. Make sure that, as I said, we're setting the right positive tone of excitement, etc. But what we're going to get into now is actually what are these 8 things that the highest performing teams actually do, adhere to, and commit to. So in this conversation with them, what you need to do is you need to ask these 8 questions. These are critical questions that I want you to go through. And in the process of asking them, you're really asking them to awaken to a perspective of how are we today? Let's just dive into the first one. Candor. Candor is actually how much transparency, how much dialogue occurs. Remember, 74% of people say that they cannot speak openly in meetings. That is ridiculous. So here's the question you ask your team. Are we speaking candidly and courageously in our rooms in service of each other and the mission? Right? Are we speaking candidly and courageously in service of each other and the mission? This is in the context of most teams that have conflict avoidance, that the real conversation happens outside of the meeting, that the real conversation happens behind people's backs. That's the world of business that we often live in. That's unacceptable. You need to make sure that we're awakening to the realization that candor is important. Ask your team to vote from 0, which is we are the worst, to 5, which is we are extraordinary. Of course we do that. From 0 to 5, so that they can begin to awaken to that awareness. Let me go through the other 7. Collaboration. Are we collaborating and creating tangible value from the inclusion and the interdependencies that exist between us? In other words, are we actually getting value from being a team? 71% of people say they get no value from being a part of the team. They do work and then they come in and plug it into the team. They're not breaking through with answers as a result of being a part of the team. Number 3, teaming out. This is a new idea. It's the idea that your team is not just who reports to you. Your team is all of those you need to unleash to help your business. So here's the question. Are we strategically and intentionally teaming and building authentic relationships with the other people who are critical to our success? Most teams are too insular. Teaming out makes somebody like Vishen a member of my team as I think about growing my business in the online space. You need to be thinking much more broadly as a team about who is your team. Number 4, accountability. Once again, a fundamental shift in old leadership to new leadership styles. Accountability isn't just from you. Accountability is members of the team with the team. Here's the question. We are accountable for our individual commitments and are dedicated to doing whatever it takes to hold each other accountable and cross the finish line together. Never again will one individual on the team be successful and another individual fail, because we're all responsible for looking back, seeing who's struggling, seeing who needs help, seeing who needs additional resources, going back, helping them, and the team crosses the finish line together.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, okay, so let me recap the first 4 questions. The first is candor. How candid are we with each other? The second is collaboration. Are we really collaborating at the best we can? The third is teaming out. And the 4th is accountability.
Number 5, development. Are we actively pursuing learning experiences and providing peer-to-peer coaching to one another? First question is here, are we seekers? Are we really trying to grow as individuals and as a team? And then the more important pivot to this is, where am I getting my coaching? Am I getting my coaching only from my boss? No, that would be a 0. If I'm getting my coaching from the team, that's a 5. I want the team to own each other's growth and development.
Got it.
Number 6, energy. Energy. We are fatigued, fractured, and frustrated today. The world of business is upon us and it's challenging. Who owns lifting the energy of this group of individuals called the team? You as a leader can't continue to play whack-a-mole, lifting everybody up. In fact, you need people to lift you up. Here's the question. Are we maintaining each other's engagement and elevating energy by celebrating success and demonstrating gratitude? Are we lifting each other up? The team needs to keep morale up. Once again, it's so important that you recognize that the principle of co-elevation, all 8 of these roll up into a mindset of leadership, a new mindset of leadership, which is not authoritative and controlling. It's a mindset of co-elevation. These 8 areas incrementally make a co-elevating team, and that means the team is responsible for each other's success, including their energy. Number 7, relationships. Are we leading with generosity and building caring, trusting, and supportive relationships with one another? The relationships, Vishen, are the foundation, they're the bedrock of a high-performing team. If individuals are not trusting, if they're not loyal, if they're not caring of each other, then you will have a very difficult time achieving all of these other 7 attributes. Risk-taking, being bold, being candid, giving each other feedback, all of that comes when you know that you care about each other and that you trust each other. Number 8. Now, number 8 is so crucial, and it's why we're here. And that is, are we pushing higher? Are we pursuing innovation and transformation, not just the status quo? Earlier, Vishen, I said, I don't want us just to go 10%. I want us to go 10x. I want your leadership style to meet the marketplace and all of the transformational pressures coming from the outside in. I want us to be transformational. I want us to pivot and be able to have a radically adaptable business, innovative, bold, and transformational.
I love that, Keith. So step 1 is scheduling. Step 2 is create the space. Step 3 is assess and acknowledge. Now, let's talk about step 4, commitment and action.
Okay, we're in step 4. This is commitment and action. What I want you to do is, once again, pass out a piece of paper and have them write each of these 8 statements down. And then as they write these 8 statements down, they're going to be considering, what would our life be like? What would our business be like? What would we be able to achieve if these things were true? And then I want you to be able to have a dialogue around that. So here are the statements of affirmation around each of the 8. So in step 3, we wrote down and we graded ourselves of whether the existence of this attribute was present from 0 to 5. And in this aspect, we're asking them to write down this positive affirmation and asking, what would our life be like if this came to life? Candor. We speak courageously. They write that down. Collaboration. We co-create in order to innovate. In other words, we bring the problems to the table and we rely on each other to break through. Teaming out. We break down silos. We don't think of ourselves within walls and org charts. We break down silos, and our team is everybody we need to be successful. Accountability. We finish and we win together. Nobody is left behind. We are a team that crosses the finish line together. What would that feel like? Development. We coach each other. We are there to help guide and direct and coach each other. We don't just wait for that to come from our boss. Energy. We lift each other up. This is where we get our energy. It's from this team. Relationships. We are committed to one another. Imagine what it would be like if we were truly committed to one another. And finally, outcomes. We seek transformation. No 10%, it's 10x. No status quo, it's true transformation. So once the questions are asked, you're wanting to have every member of the team write us 0 to 5 on a piece of paper for each question. You collect that information, and I want you to tabulate the average for each. But while that's happening, we're going to move on to step 4, which is a reflection exercise. And in that reflection exercise, we're going to get a chance to ask ourselves, what would it be like if we're actually a 5 for each of these questions? What would our business be like? What would our experience be like? What would our results be like? And I want you to conduct a dialogue around that. So you could ask that team that open-ended question, and you might even start by giving some of your reflections on what things would be like to spur their dialogue around that comment.
Keith, thank you. That was such a beautiful process. I just want to make sure I understand this. So in step four, we're having an open dialogue with the team on these eight dimensions and how our team would look like if we were a 5 out of 5 in each, right? And I'm guessing someone is taking notes, but we are building a vision together of being a 5 out of 5 at each of these items.
Yeah, the intention vision is to really understand hope and possibility, because there is a gap. No team is a 5 out of 5. All teams have opportunities for improvement. And we've just introduced some fundamentally different social contracts that most teams don't have. Remember, statistically speaking, all of our research showed that only 2 out of 5 teams believe they're reaching their full potential, right? Only 2 out of 5 teams believe they're reaching their full potential. So with that in mind, of course there's going to be a gap, which, by the way, it's a beautiful segue into step 5, which is, let's now pick one. Let's pick one area as a team to earnestly decide to move forward and start focusing on. Now, in order to do that, it would be great if you were to be able to hand back the surveys to everybody, and we can see how we voted on all of these areas. We can see that our accountability might have been low. We can see that our candor might have been low. We can see that we're really great on relationships, but we're not that great on energy. So by looking at all of this, I now want you as a team to discuss openly which one of these 8 areas do we really want to double down and focus on over the next month.
Beautiful. I love this process. Now, let's go on to step 6.
Step 6 is something that I call tying it into integrity. So I give you, for instance, we talk about candor. I know organizations that have "Be Bold" written on posters, and yet people are small in meetings. They don't speak the truth. They're not courageous. They talk behind each other's backs. And I ask myself, and sometimes I'll just ask a team, is it high or low professional behavior to talk behind each other when they're not around? And everyone's like, well, it's low. And is it high or low integrity as a professional to speak behind each other's backs? Well, it's low, but we do it, right? So I want to start tethering a higher sense of obligation, a moral obligation that we are really going to work hard. And that's why, by the way, I picked one. If you picked 8 things and say, we're going to fundamentally be better at all 8 things, it will overwhelm and people will not actually take it seriously. If we say that for the next month, we're really going to work hard to lift each other's energy. For the next month, we're really going to work hard to coach each other. For the next month, etc. And we look at each other and we say, we are tying this to our word. This is our word, right? And that's the most powerful element. I want to really ground this, that this is serious stuff, and it is serious stuff. The social contract is serious. You wouldn't cheat on your expense account? Of course not. That's stealing. Well, I believe poor leadership and not adhering to these values that we know create great teams, I think that's stealing from the business itself.
Amazing. So in step 6, you've identified the one thing, and now you're committing to taking actions to improve that item to a 5 out of 5.
Yes, exactly. But no vision that this is only the awakening. This contract, this recontracting is one module of our program. But it's a critical module because it's covering all of the areas that our program is going to reboot and coach you to practice. Every single one of these areas have elements of practices and habits and rituals that you as a leader need to begin to adopt. And that's why our program is there, Vishen. All 21 of our modules are commitments to change the way we behave in order to bring these 8 things to life.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Keith. And for those of you who are curious on the program, we'll come to that in a moment. First, let's do a quick recap of what you've covered so far. So the process looks like this. It's called recontracting. And this is about examining the 8 dimensions of really having a thriving team and evolving your team to be a 5 out of 5 in each of these dimensions. Step 1 is really easy. Step 1 is your scheduling. Step 2, you're creating the space. Keith shared with you the dialogue, the tone that you want to put out there, not critical and disappointed, using we language, focusing on the benefits, and porosity, getting people to know that you're going to be taking them through a process and having them show up to this 90-minute session, which in today's world may even be happening on Zoom. Step 3 is assess and acknowledge. And you're going to have your team rate itself on a scale of 0 to 5. 0 is lowest, 5 is highest, on candor, collaboration, teaming out, accountability, development, energy, relationship, and outcome. Step 4 is commitment and action. This is where you look at those 8 dimensions and you have an open dialogue with your team. What would it look like if we were 5 out of 5 in each of these? Step 5 is you pick one. And as Keith said, you can put up a poll on something like Zoom and have your team choose. Step 6, you commit to the strategy. And this is where you come together as a team to raise that to 5 out of 5, listening and accepting people's ideas and making a commitment to make this happen. Now, I bet many of you had an incredible eye-opening time on this conversation, as I did. Keith has been a leadership coach to me, to Mindvalley, and I'm so grateful, Keith, for the difference that you've been able to make, not just to Mindvalley, but to so many other companies out there. And so I want to encourage you to go deeper. Don't wait for you to become a leader. Don't wait for you to be CEO. Start acting with these ideas right now. Transform the teams. Even if you're not necessarily leading the team, you can become what I call a stealth leader, a leader in the background who is mastering and investing in the art of leadership so that they can grow in their career and their performance. Or maybe you are a leader. Well, this is one of the biggest investments you can make in growing your team, your career, your potential in the world. Now, if you find these ideas interesting, I really want to encourage you to go deep in our new program on leadership with Keith Ferrazzi. We designed this to be the #1 leadership program in the world. And I cannot wait to give you a quick glimpse of what this program covers. Keith, give us an idea of why you created this program.
Vishen, we have been struggling for 20 years to lead in a way that keeps up with the radical change that's happened to the work world. And it has created fractured organizations, it's created fatigue, it's created frustration, and we are now at an inflection point where we can't look back. We have to go forward. I created this program because it's time to reboot leadership. And this program is the roadmap to reboot leadership in the work world today.
So, Keith, give me some highlights of this program.
Vishen, what I love about this program is it starts from scratch. It starts with the reconstituting and recontracting. What does it mean to myself to be a leader? And we're really looking at purpose and mission, and we're really looking at what are we trying to achieve. I love the fact that this program focuses on something you're trying to achieve, and then it gives it the 10x acceleration power of applying this new form of leadership, this capability of being truly exponential to anything you're trying to achieve. As we go through the program, in week 2, we start focusing on some of the actual practices to totally change the way your team thinks about being a team. And we introduce forms of collaboration that make your outcomes bold and innovative. We focus on ways in which for your team to think more broadly about who's even in the team and enlist people in ways that have never been enlisted before in your team in order to bring people in to be of service to your mission and your goal that previously weren't even a part of your team, but now are partnering with your team deeply. By the time we get to week 3, we're dealing with all of the nuances of great leadership, with great collaboration and feedback, and also how do you get the kind of communications that are needed both inside and outside your team. It's a very robust framework. We have absorbed all of the great leadership books of the past, but rebooted it for the modern era with 85 CHROs, Vishen. I worked with 85 heads of HR from some of the most prestigious organizations in the world, asking the question, what are the new leadership competencies for the modern work era? All of this is in this one course. It's truly unique.
Amazing. That so excites me. Now, as you're watching, I want you to know you have learned a lot. We've given you tons of content. Look at your notes and you'll see how much you wrote down. And you have two choices here. You can say, this is enough. This is good. I'm satisfied. I'll dabble with this. Or you can decide, I really want to commit. And I want to urge you, don't be a dabbler. Because you know, if you decide that you're just going to stop here, you'll probably have transformed, learned some key ideas, but think about the potential you could be missing out on. What I want you to do is to commit to go into this program, to commit to becoming the ultimate leader. Because think about the man or woman you're destined to be. And it is your duty to fulfill that destiny. And this program is going to get you there remarkably fast because, as Keith said, so much research, so much work has gone into it. You could choose to go and read those 100-something books, or you could choose to know that we've already done the research for you, created a meticulous program to transform you into the ultimate leader. And this program is designed on Mindvalley's Quest platform. Let's take a look at what that looks like, because when you see the nuances of how we've created this transformation experience, you will understand this is not just an online course. This is literally an upgrade of your entire identity and vision for yourself so that the visions that you are destined to bring to the world can now come true. So I urge you, don't just dabble, go deep, commit to this, and watch the difference it's going to make in your life. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you feel that the ideas here were actionable? Did you feel you gained insights on how true leaders think? Did you see the difference between the old style of leadership and this new emerging style? Do you want your team to be more of a partner for you in the business? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I want you to check this program out. And the best part is this, you don't have to make up your mind right now. You can try this program out for 15 days from the time of purchase. And if you feel that it's not for you, just go to mindvalley.com/refund, click a button, and issue yourself a refund. It's completely automatic. We are so confident that this is the #1 leadership program in the world. You can try it out for 15 days risk-free. Think about it this way. If you were buying a house, you wouldn't buy a house without going inside the house to check it out to see if it's right for you. What I'm asking you to do here is not to commit to this program, but to simply go inside and check it out. Enroll, check it out for 15 days, watch the videos that are there, do some of the exercises, check in with yourself. If you feel this is right for you, go ahead and complete the program. If not, anytime in 15 days, go to mindvalley.com/refund and issue yourself a full refund. There is no risk at all. Now, we're so confident about the quality of these programs, which is why we make it easy for you to try it out. Just a second, guys. I know this is weird. I just jumped into my own masterclass, but I wanted to update you on a really cool innovation that we just released on Mindvalley, and it happened since I recorded that past episode. So what we find is that so many of our top students love the programs that they enroll in, that they enroll in a second program, and a third program, and a fourth program. Because the fact is, once you get on a Mindvalley Quest, you get so hooked. What we are really good at is making learning as exciting as a computer game. When you wake up every day and you're spending your 10 to 20 minutes with your designated trainer and you feel your life shift, it creates such a remarkable feeling. But what happens when you finish that program? Well, people come back to Mindvalley and they enroll in the second and the third program, but that can get expensive. So we launched something called Mindvalley All Access. And what this means is that you get access to everything for less than $2 a day. So what does this look like? Well, firstly, you now have access to the top teachers and trainers in the world. And every new teacher coming onto Mindvalley is automatically added to your account. You take a fun self-assessment, which will help you view your life from a holistic perspective and know what to focus on. You then choose your adventure, the program that you want to take. And it's only 5 to 20 minutes a day because our teachers are so effective. Every day, you are developing new skills, new attitudes, new mindsets, new beliefs. And at the end of each month, you've up-leveled. Maybe you're now reading 3 times as fast, or your health is completely transformed, or you've improved your spiritual abilities for energy healing or manifesting. So many people forget that the number one thing that we need to do in life to achieve all our wildest dreams, to have career success, to give back to our family and the world, is to focus on becoming the best you can be. And this means investing in your personal growth. Think about what that will do for your life and the lives of everyone you touch. Scroll down below and enroll in Mindvalley All Access. All our programs are going to be open and available to you, so you get to choose your own adventure. And so you have 2 parts. Part 1 is where you can continue where you are. This is the part where you continue working your butt off and maybe not seeing results. You're frustrated with your team. You don't enjoy being with your team. You wonder why it's taking you so hard to attain your goals. Or you can go into part 2. Part 2 is where you commit to changing your life, to upgrading your leadership skills. You're winning. You're getting results. Your team are your allies. You're working less because you don't have to carry the entire burden yourself. You have allies helping you with your mission, with your goals. They are coming up with innovations that you did not dream about. You have time and energy to live your life while you're leading. And all of us should aspire to go on to this second path, which is why if you are running a team, if you're committed to your career, if you're building a company, like it or not, you're a leader. And one of the most important things you need to do in your life right now is invest in your leadership skills, because that will make all the difference and magnify your impact in the world. So, Keith, before we wrap up, any closing words?
Vishen, yeah, I'd like to just sort of ground this in something. The fact that this to me is not just about adding 10%, 20% to the bottom line of a company. To me, I go back very vividly to what it was like to be sitting at the table of a worker who is displaced because of poor leadership. And I wake up and literally 40 years later, the responsibility that my organization and I had, and these principles of co-elevation, to be a part of the turnaround of a grand organization like General Motors. And my dad was a United Auto Workers steel worker, right? So this is a beautiful turnaround to have that organization claim that these principles were critical in the saving of that great organization and so many jobs. This, to me, Vishen, is a movement. I wish our world saw more co-elevation. I wish our world saw more groups of people going higher together. And in the world today we're living in, things are too fractured. We need more collectivism coming together to achieve extraordinary outcomes. But we can only do it if we pull together to do it. And that's what leadership is to me.
Beautifully said, Keith. So Keith, let's come to some of the frequently asked questions. So there are a lot of people who are watching this who may have some common questions. And I want to read out the questions that I know we're going to be getting, and I'd love for you to answer them. The first one is, I am so underwater right now. I don't have time for this.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't know how you don't have time for this, meaning that the reason we're underwater is because we're struggling with rules of leadership that don't apply for the game we're playing. Of course we're underwater. We're underwater because we're the hub and spoke of everything that's trying to be done. We're underwater because we're using old leadership rules for a new work world. It's time to reboot. It's time to accept that there's a new world we're living in today, and there's a new set of leadership principles we need to adopt, and that's what's important.
Okay, and the second question is, I don't have a team. I'm a freelancer or a consultant. I work from home right now. Is this still relevant to me?
Of course you have a team. You have a team which includes everybody you need to grow your business and be joyful doing so, which includes your clients, which includes partners that you could get, which includes individuals that are selling into the same industry but are non-competitive. All of that is your team. And if you just teamed out and recognize that, you could no longer be so isolated and alone in what you do, but you could create a vibrant team getting exponential outcomes.
Beautifully said, Keith. And I just want to add my perspective on that. When I first started out as an entrepreneur, it was just me. For many years, it was just me working from a Starbucks, but I had a team. My team was the clients I was building websites for, the authors who I was doing marketing for. They were my team. They didn't work for me, but they were part of the team because my success was their success. When you look at it from that point of view, you understand that this program applies even if you're a freelancer, even if you're in the situation I was in all those years ago. Okay, now the third question, Keith, is I know how to be a good leader. I struggle with implementing things.
You know, a lot of people question, what is leadership? Is leadership about vision, and then there's management, which is about doing? And the reality is that leadership is the facilitation of having a powerful vision and getting it done. The implementation needs to be a part of your new commitment to leadership, because the reality is all of it, from the vision to the execution, is not on your shoulders. It's on the shoulders of the team. Your ability to extract more from the team that you're working with is a critical element of high-performing leadership. So I understand that you're struggling with implementing, but what I need you to do is to recognize that there are resources around you, and your job is to unleash and facilitate those.
Beautiful. Next question is, this is an interesting one. I don't trust my team to step up.
You know, this is actually shared by a lot of entrepreneurs. A lot of entrepreneurs feel that their teams are not the kind of teams that could truly co-elevate, that could step up, that could achieve breakthrough outcomes. And as a result, we keep assuming that of them, and we keep treating them that way. And as a result, they stay that way. I have seen more teams turn around. I have seen more capability that was stomped down actually turn around and get unleashed when adopting co-elevating leadership, because your team can't step up now because of you. You are the one that need to step out of the way and step down and coach your team to be truly co-elevating. The only thing that's holding your team back is you as a leader. And I want to teach you how to be a different leader.
Amazing. Thank you, Keith. Thank you for answering those questions. Thank you for tuning into this masterclass. Can't wait to see you in our new leadership program with Keith Ferrazzi. All the information is below. Scroll down, click join the program, and I'll see you in this course. Thank you all. And thank you, Keith.
My pleasure, Vishen. What a great partnership. I'm so happy you're a member of my team.
Thank you, Keith. I am so excited about this program, bringing it out to the world. I cannot wait to enroll in this program, and I'm so grateful to have you as a mentor and an ally in Mindvalley. And guys, let's give a big round of applause to Keith Ferrazzi. And I know a lot of you are going to be enrolling in this program. I cannot wait to see you in our online community and connect with you. Take care, guys.